Welcome everybody to tonight's Friends of Indian Art event. I am Karen Freeman and I'm co-chair of Friends of Indian Art along with Ardith Eicher. We expect the presentation to go for about 30 to 40 minutes and then we'll open it up for Q&A. I want to thank Lauren Page of the Museum Foundation for technical assistance for tonight's presentation. Hopefully it will be flawless. No pressure, Lauren. Tonight's event features a member of the FIA steering committee, Nocona Burgess. Some of you may know him as a renowned and very talented artist. In addition to that, Nocona has a relatively new day job as the Cultural Resources Specialist for Indian Education for the Santa Fe Public Schools. The title of tonight's presentation is Indian Education for All, Indigenizing, sorry, I really did practice that word, Indigenizing the Santa Fe Public School Curriculum. Nocona and his colleagues have created programs not only for Native students, but for all students in the Santa Fe school system from kindergarten through 12th grade to inform and teach Indigenous culture. Beyond Native peoples in our country. So Nocona, I'm turning it over to you and I will mute myself so you can't hear my dog.
Good evening, everybody. Glad you could all make it. I'm just gonna, I'm Nocona. I work in Indian Ed for Santa Fe Public Schools in the Native American Student Services Department. And I'm just gonna kind of review everything we're doing. The Native American Student Services has been around quite a while. Nancy Davis is the director. And she's recently added myself, the cultural resource specialist, and we have Loretta Nieto, who's our career and college coordinator to the department. So now there's 3 of us. We're hoping to add more. And we've just been awarded a department. It used to just be the student services, but now it's the Indian Ed department. And we got upgraded with our new office, and we're at the BF Young building. And so on Camino Sierra Vista. So yeah, so that's what I do. I'm just gonna kind of review everything that we go through. I'm gonna start off with the project that we worked with the MIAC. So this is a program that we started working with the Museum of Indian Arts and Culture. It's artist presentations, and the MIAC had some money that they let us use to pay for artist presentations. And so they, I got the artist and asked them to present for our students. And so it was for all of our students. We'd have the lower grades like on the weekends on Saturday, and kind of the older kids on Thursdays. And so the artists would come in and talk about their careers, talk about their art. And also all the artists that I picked have college degrees. And so I wanted to kind of talk about that. And so we had artists, we had a poet, Byron Aspas. We had Ryan Singer, a painter. We had Chad Brown Eagle, who was a illustration artist and graphic artist. And so this was kind of the variety of artists we had. And then we had Pishon Bread, who's a filmmaker, who came in and did some presentations. And so we just kind of did it via Zoom, and the kids would all kind of sign in and check in. And the artists would just kind of talk, and they had a Q&A session, and they would kind of give them little projects and assignments here. And so Ryan Singer talked about his art and why he does a lot of Star Wars in his art. And then he talked about a comic. And so he did a demonstration where he had the kids make a comic book. So it was just a folded book, and they all put one together. And so this is him in his presentation. And so, so it was a really good program, and we ran it, I believe, from October through March of this year. So we ended it right before spring break of this year. And so this is some of the kids in their presentations, and with their comic, kind of reflecting back the assignment that Ryan had given them. So this is Ben Calabas's son. And then this is my kid. So so it was really good, and the conversation went well. It was well attended. It was kind of hit and miss on the attendance, but it kind of gave kids something to do outside the classroom. And I think the artists did a great job, and we tried to get a good variety of artists in our presentations. And I want to thank the MIAC and Della and Dr. Martinez for their assistance. So yeah, so like I said, we just had good meetings, good presentations. The artists were really excited about it, and it was really a fun project, you know. And like I said, we had all age groups. I think we had 1st through 12th grade, so we had a good group. And like I said, I specifically picked artists that had college degrees because I really wanted to talk about that, because we're really promoting and pushing for that as well. This is one of our artists. So this is kind of the flyer we'd send out and kind of what their objectives were, their education, some of their work, their writing. So Byron is a writer. And then this is Chad Yellowjohn. And yeah, he does graphic illustration and just really good stuff. You know, it was all relatable for the students. They had a good time. And yeah, it was just fun. It was really fun to see it. And I have them all recorded and I have them all saved. So if anybody wants a request to watch one of these, you're welcome to request it from me. And I'll have my email in at the end of the presentation. And so the next thing that I did was I had an artist in residence at Cesar Chavez. And so the teacher there was wanting to do historical art of New Mexico, but I kind of thought, you know, the class was 3rd and 4th graders. So I thought, let's do something a little different. Let's do something a little fun. And so actually I did a contemporary artist, native artists from the tribes in New Mexico. So we had Navajo, Apache, and Pueblo artists. And so we had artists like Pat Pruitt, and I gave a slide presentation, and then I had some videos of like Pat's laser cutting into titanium and cutting into steel. And we had a video of Ira Lujan blowing glass. And so it was really cool. And so the kids were really inquisitive, and they really asked a lot of good questions. And I showed them some stuff by Adrian Wall. And so it was just a good variety of all the artists from New Mexico. And then I talked about how they use their culture and their tribe and their home as subject matter and influence into their art. And so we had artists like Debbie Lujan. And so, yeah, so it was really great. So we had photography, sculpture, stone sculpture, laser, you know, cutting glass. And so it was all a lot of really contemporary things. And so this is some of the art from the students based on the images they saw. I'm not for sure. I think this is kind of based on the Sheldon Harvey piece that they were looking at. So I had some Sheldon Harvey art in there as well. And then this is based on one of Ira Lujan's glass buffaloes. And this is based off of Russell Fry's. He's a glass blower, and he does pots that look like Pueblo pottery, but they're made out of hand-blown glass. And so, yeah, I just think the students did really well. A lot of them did some good work, and like I said, I felt like it was relatable, and I kind of understood it more in terms of contemporary things with photography and computer graphics and all those types of things. So it was really good. It was really fun, and they surprised me, which was nice. And then we also work with the New Mexico Office of Archaeological Studies. And actually, we have our summer program right now, and the New Mexico Office of Archaeological Studies is there this week. So they've been there all week since Monday, and they just brought in, the kids were making arrows the other day, and they were shooting atlatls, and not at each other, but they shot atlatls, and they were learning how to make a fire with the bow and the stick. And when I got there one day to check on everything, I could smell smoke, and I was wondering what was going on. And yeah, the kids are in the classroom trying to start a fire. So it was really cool. And so today they had yucca weaving, and they were kind of showing them how the different tribes in the area made sandals and things out of yucca. And this is a rabbit skin blanket. And then this is also kind of a carrier that they have. And so, and this is my son. This is one of the arrows that they made. So they're very, very excited about that. So, and we do work with them. They have a good outreach program. And this is something we were going to try to bring in last year during spring break, but with all the shutdowns and stuff. So we were able to kind of have them come back out this summer and present stuff. And the kids absolutely love it. They go outside, they get to experiment and stuff. And Yeah, so it's really good. So the main subject this year in the summer program was kind of the ingenuity, engineering, and of tools of ancient peoples, and kind of show how smart and how they made things work and how they built things, and the engineering of it all. And so it was really good because there's kind of some pushback with Rick Santorum saying that nothing was here before the Europeans arrived. So it was kind of this answer to that, that there was these civilizations, there were cities, there were trade routes, and so they learned about all that, but mostly they did tools and materials and things like that. So it was really good. And this is a coloring book that we put together. Some of the artists donated images and stuff. And so last year we had a summer stories program where we handed out reading books. So we bought a bunch of books and we did an email call out of families that wanted books. And so we got grade appropriate books to mail out. And then we also put together this coloring book to send to the students last summer during the pandemic. And then we even gave some out at the beginning of the fall. And so they were really good. We just wanted students to kind of have something to do. And these are some of the artists that we have. And this is just a few. I think it's an 11-page book. And so this is some of the artists that contributed to it. And then our next project that we have going on is we're working with our department, Native American Student Services, IIA's gardening, and then the Santa Fe Indigenous Center. And we scored a lot of seeds from the Indigenous Center. They had a seed trade and donating, and they asked me if I wanted some. And then I've cultivated a few seeds and stuff. And so, yeah, this is the Ancestor Garden. We're actually getting a greenhouse put up at Gonzalez School and Amy Beal School, and we're going to grow all indigenous foods and stuff in there. And so these are we have everything from Hopi, red and white and blue corn, and Acoma blue corn. And then we have some Tasuki pumpkins. We have, what else do we have in there? We have some Tasuki chili. We have some Anasazi beans. And so these are some of the things that we're talking about. And this is one of the programs that it will be kind of an after school program for the Native students, but also we're in the classroom. So we did this presentation in the classroom for 4th grade and 6th grade. And we talked about indigenous foods, indigenous growing. And so the project that we had, and it's part of our indigenous Indian Ed for All. And so this is in the classroom, not specifically for Native students, but for all students. And so we're just talking about all the foods that were grown here and all the indigenous food. And I had like a Q&A session with the kids. I was asking them what their favorite foods were in New Mexico, and almost everything they named, was here. And I told them that, they were eating these things and growing these things long before New Mexico existed. And so it's a good way to kind of show that the impact, the indigenous impact on the foods and the Ancestor Garden. And it's really good. And our hope is to, once we grow this garden and get it out, we want to introduce this into the cafeterias. And then we also have a program called Cooking with Kids that the schools do. And we want to be able to introduce some of our foods that we're growing in there. And so it's been really great. Teresa Calti Quintana has been helping us, and she works at IIA, and they have a summer program for kids. And she's really helped us a lot. And so this is the future location for the greenhouse at Amy Beal School. We had it leveled the other day. So it's a 12 by 20. So it's a pretty good size greenhouse. And so they got it leveled, and I think we're gonna get this thing put up here in the next few weeks. And this is part of the bean sprout. So the bean sprout project was really 4th graders, and the Three Sisters was 6th graders, but it's still part of our Ancestor Garden program. And so the 4th graders did bean sprouts, and we used Anasazi beans because we were kind of talking about how Anasazi beans kind of disappeared. And then the year 1900, they found this container in a cave, and it was full of these beans. And they weren't beans that anybody was familiar with, and they planted them and they grew. And so they've kind of just been reintroduced in the last 120 years, and who knows how long they've been off of the scene. And so we did the Anasazi beans, and it's kind of the same thing. I believe in 2016 they found a container in like Wisconsin or Michigan with squash seeds in there. and they regrew those, and they don't know how long they've been not around. You know, they're thinking like 800 years or so that this container's been sealed, and so they're growing this uh, squash seeds, and we actually applied to get some from the University of Wisconsin, and so we're hoping to grow some of those in our garden as well. So like I said, these are projects that we have not just for our native students, but all of our students, and we're introducing curriculum and education. We have books and videos and stuff that back these things up. And then again, I brought Teresa in to work with the bean sprout project, and we actually planted these bean sprouts in our garden at Amyville. So the next one, the Three Sisters Garden, was for the sixth graders. And so we actually planted the garden. It's growing. I have some pictures of it. And so we talked about how it was grown. And even like with the Three Sisters, it ranges from Maine to Michigan, here in the Southwest, down into Mexico. And, you know, we talked about the science in this. And the Three Sisters Garden was introduced into the science portion of the classroom. And so we talked about nitrates, how corn takes the nitrates out of the soil, but beans actually puts it into the soil. And this reason the Three Sisters is so successful is because the beans replenish the nitrates that the corn takes out, but also the corn stalk allows for the beans to grow, you know, up on the stalk. And what the pumpkins and squash do is they protect the beans, and they keep the soil moist and cool when they're growing. And so they all kind of work in conjunction with each other. And so it's just a great project. And like I said, we were able to introduce it. It doesn't always have to be in art or, you know, social studies, that we can introduce this into a science class. And so it went really well. So we had a good success in the kids, and Teresa introduced some traditional things in the classroom about talking and to your plants, and then also like breathing on them before you plant it, kind of giving them the kind of breath of life, and letting them know that you're going to take care of them and let them grow. And so this is another shot from the classroom. So this is the beginning of our Three Sisters Garden. So this was the boxes that we had. And again, this is at Amy Beale School. And this is the next phase. And this was about 2 days ago. We went over and checked on it, and we have a watering program. We have some volunteers from Rancho Viejo that go out and water every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And so we were checking it, and we actually were putting the pumpkin seeds in. So once the corn gets so high and the beans come along, then you put the pumpkins in. And so we're hoping that the pumpkins, you know, get going here, and then we'll have, you know, we're excited that when the kids come back, they'll really see how this thing has grown all summer. So this is our InterTribal Culture Club. And this is at Amy Beale. And Amy Beale is kind of our pilot program. We got funding, and with the grant we wrote in Amy Beale School and Santa Fe High School, because those are the two schools with the largest Native population of students. And so we have this InterTribal Culture Club. And what we do is we bring in artists, dancers, musicians, storytellers, and so they just work every Friday with the kids, you know, during normal times. And so the kids come in, and so we've had artists come in, and they have we had a dance, like they learned the butterfly dance one time, and it was really cute because all the kids are from different tribes. And then our total tribal makeup in Santa Fe Public Schools is about 450, and 3/4 of those are from tribes from New Mexico, and then about 25% are from tribes outside of New Mexico. And so what we've actually been doing is trying to find, because they would always just put them as other. So we've been kind of digging through all the forms and stuff and trying to find what tribes are represented in other than New Mexico tribes. And so this is an artist named Anthony Jachu. He's from Zuni. And so he was just working with the students. And this was last spring. And then we were getting ready to kick it off at Santa Fe High School before everything kind of went south. But this is something we want to do. And like I said, Amy Beale's kind of the pilot program, and we want to kind of introduce this into some of the schools, most likely just the schools with the larger Native populations. I believe there's about 28 Native kids at Amy Beale, and that's over here in Rancho Viejo. So this is some more pictures of the kids working, painting. And these are all of our InterTribal Culture Club members at Amy Beale. These are the kids that kind of been there, and they all graduated. This is their 6th grade promotion. And so these are all the native 6th graders at Amy Beale. So we wanted to kind of give them some props there. Because like I said, they're the pilots. They're the ones the kids that kind of started this whole program. And, you know, we learn from them kind of what works, what doesn't work, times that work. And so, yeah, it was a really successful program, and we're going to continue it this fall. Right now, we're in the middle of our NAS summer program, and it's June 1st through June 25th. And Monday through Thursday, we have programming for the students. So in the mornings, they kind of do reading and math and kind of brush up on some of the areas that you know the kids mostly have trouble with, which is reading and math. So we have teachers actually in the classroom from probably about from 9 to noon. And so they're just in there doing projects and reading and working on math. And so we have 1st through 8th grade there at the summer camp, and they're all kind of split up in groups. And then in the afternoons, then they have lunch, and then in the afternoons we have programming. So this week we have the archaeology center there, and then we also have a ledger artist working with the kids. His name's Bo Satok, and he's doing ledger art. So we get the kids split up in the groups. And then next week we're going to have a lady teacher come in and doing books. They're going to make handmade books with the kids. And then we also have New Mexico Youth Works coming in, and they're going to do silk screening and printing, and then do printing on t-shirts. And that's kind of for the older kids, probably 5th grade and up. And so, and then, yeah, so those are some of the programs that we have there. And then Fridays, they go on a field trip. So like tomorrow, they're going to go to Bandelier in the morning and go hiking. And then from about 12 to 2, they're going to go bowling. And so it's just a good program, and it goes from 8 to 3. So it's an all-day program. And so it's really good. It helps parents out too, to have something for the kids to do. And so right now we have about, I think we have about 38 kids in our program. This is them at the game. I think they had more fun eating than doing anything else. They missed out on a couple opportunities to catch a foul ball and a t-shirt though. They were disappointed with that. And so these are our Native American Student Services graduates. This is the class of 2021. These are all of our seniors, outgoing seniors. And so we usually have like a cookout or a dinner or something with them, but with all of the COVID stuff going on, this year we had them some stoles made so that they could stand out. And then we had medallions made. Last year we had medallions made as well. And Brian Fleetwood, who's Muskogee Creek, he's the head of the jewelry department, IIA, made these. And so he gets them engraved, and they have our Native American Student Services. It has our logo on there. And then each student has their name engraved into and this year he used hickory wood. Last year he used rosewood. And so these are just pictures. So they came by to pick up their things. We took some pictures of them. And here's some more pictures. And so, yeah, so it was really nice. They were able to come by with their families, and we got some photos of them. And they're all really excited to kind of get our little gifts there. And so these are the stoles. And then we had little gift bags for them. And these are some cards that we had made up. The cards we had made up the artist is Craig George. We just thought that the young lady on the bike with the bluebird flower and the backpack, the mask was all kind of relatable to what's going on. And so then we also, like I said, we usually have a dinner and stuff, but we bought them some sandwiches and some lunches from Muchos, which everybody appreciated. So it was really good. So that's our grads. And then just Monday, I gave a presentation to teachers over the STEM and STEAM of Chaco Canyon. And STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And STEAM is science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. And so what I did is I talked about kind of the engineering and science behind Chaco Canyon. And because a lot of times when we're talking about Native in the classroom, it's always in social studies with ceremonies and things like that, or it's in the arts, you know, or it's history. And so what I've been trying to do is, you know, using historical stuff, I want the teachers to start talking about and have it be an option where they're talking about science and engineering behind these things. You have these walls that are still standing, and they were built in 850, and the fact that they're just still standing, and that they're engineering marvels from the ancient world that was here. And for a long time, Chaco Pueblo Bonito was the tallest building, in America before like Chicago and everything else started sprouting up. And so I gave a presentation on that about the engineering, math, everything that, it was for. And we kind of moved away from kind of the arts and crafts aspect of it, because a lot of the articles that I would read, they would start talking about Chaco Canyon, and all they would talk about how they were master artisans. And then the art aspect that I put in here is, I said, art is kind of the end result that science and engineering and planning and even mathematics are put into thoughts with art. But the art is kind of the end result. And I said, the art kind of lets it kind of tracks different periods. So especially with pottery, you can say that these designs happened between this year and this year, this era and this era, and then the next design, so you can really kind of tell how old something is, or its timing, and based on the designs of the art. But what about all the engineering behind it? And so this is the math behind Navajo weaving. And so this is something that this is just a piece, and this has a whole lesson plan that you can use in the classroom. It just talks about parallel lines, parallelograms of Navajo rugs, and how it's kind of laid out. And so, we're talking about how if you get one thing off or one thing's wrong, that the whole design is ruined, and they have to start all over again. So these are just some things that they can introduce in the classroom. And like I said, this is another aspect of Indian art, Indian education for all. This is something that you can introduce in a math class, and it doesn't have to be just for Native students. It can be for all students, so that whenever, Santa Fe students see Navajo rugs, they can understand the mathematics behind it. And so we just thought it was a fun way to introduce that and kind of a different aspect. So these are some of the things we do. We had summer stories, book program, and reading programs. We have backpacks and school supplies that we hand out at the beginning of the school year. During the pandemic, we did food delivery. We worked with the Adelante program, and it was farms to families. And so basically, we'd send out an email on Fridays and ask families who needed food. And I'd load up my kid, and me and him would drive all around Santa Fe delivering boxes of food to families in need. And so that was a really good program. And even with that, we delivered coloring books and things like that to the families. And then I'm doing curriculum development for Indian education and Indian Ed for All. So basically, what I'm doing on that is just finding sources, finding materials, books, lesson plans from different places. I mean, I've been talking to people at Arizona State, the University of Oklahoma, Arizona State on that. So just finding, and then also people. I've got a kind of a whole Rolodex. I know that's an old school term, of people that I sent out emails and messages to all these people that I knew that are artists and scientists and doctors and teachers and professors and everything else, and just asked if they could kind of be on my list in case a teacher needed some support, or if it was something outside of my area of expertise that I could ask them, to kind of lend a hand. And so it's been really good. I mean, so far we did a dance class. There's like a contemporary dance class at Santa Fe High School, and Jane Myers had worked with that classroom. And then we had Byron, our poet, our Dene poet, that worked with us in our MIAC program. He worked with an English class at Capitol High School. And then we had Dr. Tomakara, who's a microbiologist at Arizona State, worked with the biology class at Santa Fe High School. And then I did some work with the fifth grades. We're doing research projects on Native American research project. And so I went into the classroom and talked with the teachers and talked with the students. And one thing we did is I was kind of saying, we don't always have to do historical things on their research projects. So I really pushed them to kind of do more contemporary stuff. So like John Harrington or Deb Howland, to look at them first and look at their careers and what they're doing, and then kind of backtrack and find out, information from their tribe and what their tribal histories are, instead of just kind of doing the same old thing. Because I kind of chuckled that, I shouldn't be asked if I lived in a teepee at this point, that kids should have an idea of like contemporary native stuff that goes on, talking about the casinos and the industry that goes on here. And so, yeah, so that was really good. So that's what I do with the curriculum development. And then the college and career support, we start talking with kids about, what their plans are after school and how we can help them, technical schools, culinary school, college. And one thing that we're building in the college and career support, it's actually, we're starting in grade school. And so we have a parent navigator. And so what we're starting to do is kind of talk about these things early on and kind of get kids familiar with the lingo of college, career, training. And then even push it more in junior high. And so by the time they get to high school and they're really thinking about this, none of it is foreign, even like a credit hour isn't foreign. They know what it is and they know what it's about. They know about funding, scholarships, and things like that in schools where they can get financial support. And then the next thing is student outreach and support. We do phone calls. We're able to check on their grades, check on their attendance, especially during the pandemic, to make sure they were showing up to class. And if something's wrong or if they're not showing up or their grades are slipping, then we just give a call. We call the parents, and sometimes we talk with the students and kind of see what's going on, see how we can help. And so we do a lot of that. So we make a lot of phone calls. And then teacher classroom support and Indigenous curriculum. And that's kind of where I come in. What I do is I really find that the teachers are afraid to teach some of the Indigenous curriculum because they don't want to mess it up or they don't want to get something wrong. And so they won't teach it at all. And in reality, with the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit, they have to start teaching some of this stuff, and they have to kind of do some of these things in Indian education. And so what I do is I've been telling the teachers, we did a district-wide teacher support meeting last summer, and then we did another one with the STEM program. Is what I told them is like, we're going to find the curriculum, we're going to find the books, we're going to find the videos, we're going to find the people to support these programs so that you can teach it in the classroom. And that if a tribal leader or a parent has any issue with it, they can come talk to me, and then I can explain where I got the source. That these are the books we use, these are the writers we use, these are the lecturers that we brought into the classroom, so on and so forth. So that I'm kind of taking the heat, and the teachers can kind of lean on me and be able to teach this in the classroom and not be afraid of not doing it correctly, because we're going to help them do it the best that they can. And then we also offering tutoring services. So especially during April and May, with all the kids that were graduating, we had a math tutor come in and kind of help them kind of wrap things up, make sure everybody was on par to graduate, or if they were needing support, because math was one of the main things that they were having trouble with, especially during the pandemic and not being in the classroom. And so that's that's kind of what we do, I guess, in a nutshell. So we do a lot. We were getting ready to do our presentation for the PED for the New Mexico education. And I think we have like 28 pages of things that we've done, just the three of us. And so my email is here. So if you ever have any questions, or you want to lend support or volunteer, you can always email me there. And then you can also email us at nas@sfpsk12. And so just NASS, and it'll go to all three of us, and one of us will take it. And so, yeah, so that's what we do. So if you have questions, please ask, and I'll be happy to answer. If I missed something or wasn't clear on anything, please ask.
Nocona, could you explain a little more about the lawsuit that you just referenced that kicked all this off?
Yeah, so the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit, the state education was sued because they weren't doing enough to support Native American education, English learners, what else was it? Special ed, and then kids, financial support for underprivileged kids. And so they got a lawsuit saying that they needed to do more. And so now it's a law. The governor supports it. Our school district supports it, where they have to put more money and time. And that's kind of where we came in. That's why we were added with the college and career support, and my curriculum, or my cultural resource specialists were added to the Native American Student Services because of that lawsuit. So they're giving money to these districts that have high, a lot of Native American students, and they have to do something because just the grades, the numbers aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, and it's kind of all these at-risk kids. And so yeah, so it just means that that's what we're doing. We're getting in there. We're doing these programs. We're doing tutoring, and it's everything. It's everything, making sure families have what they need, that kids are showing up for class. We have programs where they meet each other and they support, and it's also about how they're seen and their history is seen and their history is being taught, and that they can see themselves in the classroom, and it doesn't always, we're not always just going to teach things, Native stuff just to the Native kids. So we want them, their people and tribes and histories to be seen in the classroom as well. And so it's all just a part of that lawsuit that they brought on.
And can you talk a little bit about measuring your results and how you're doing that?
Yeah, so what we do is we get all of our results from the school district, our graduation rates. We get beginning of the school year scores, mid-school year, and end of the school year. So we're actually waiting on our end of the school year scores. And so like the main thing is math. So math starts out really low as far as success rates, and then it kind of jumps up mid-year and jumps up a little bit more at the end of the year. So what we're seeing is that over the summer, we need more math programs because they take a dip over the summer. And so that when they're back in the classroom, well, then their math scores go up. And so and it really took a big hit over the pandemic. So yeah, so we have numbers, the principals report it to the district, and then we get the end result. So we're really tracking that, graduation rates, grades, and one thing, like I said, we're mostly looking at is math and reading. And actually Santa Fe Native students are really close to the overall levels in the state of New Mexico. And we're the highest of all Native students in the state. Our school district has the highest test scores in math and reading and graduation rates in the state.
What's your greatest hope of what your students will get out of the program?
Well, we just really want them to kind of build, just understand, that we're there to support them, and we're trying to get them graduated and move into, college, career, placement, and have a successful experience, because we feel that a lot of families and parents and grandparents are kind of reluctant because a lot of Natives haven't had very good experiences in education at all. So there's still a reluctance from their parents and their grandparents, so what we're really trying to do is have them have a good, a good experience in school, and know that they have support and that we're there and we're checking on them, and that they see themselves in the classroom, that the high school kids, if there's in an English class, the Tommy Orange book is available, because we've been pushing that out to the English classes in high school. And so, and like I said, that book isn't just for Natives to read, it's for all the kids in the English class to read. So we've gotten support from the English teachers to kind of add that, and for it to be an option, and we don't always have to just talk about Native stuff during November. We can talk about it all year, and we don't always have to talk about history or art. We can talk about engineering and mathematics and science and literature and all of those things. And so yeah, so the end result is getting them graduated and success and really prepared for the next step. And we do that from K through 12.
So during the pandemic, did you have to do a lot of virtual programming, and was internet access a problem there?
Yeah, and so that's one thing that we did, and internet access was a problem district-wide, not just our Native students. But yeah, we did virtually everything online. I mean, we did some stuff where we handed out supplies, like we set up at the mall, or we set up at our office building, and families would come by and we'd hand out school supplies for the year, and then we handed out food. Basically, we'd get their address, drop off some boxes of food, ring the doorbell, wave at them, and kind of move on. But everything else was all virtual. And so like the NAS program, the NAS MIAC program was virtual. And then even our meetings that we had, and we did workshops and development stuff, and a lot of the things that I did in the classroom with the teachers was all virtual. And so the working with the research project with 5th grade, and then even the projects with that we brought people in from outside to work with. Yeah, so it was all virtual. So Yeah. And so it was really weird because I just started this position, and basically these are new positions. So we're building them from nothing. We're building them from the ground up. And so I started last January, about the end of January, and I worked till about mid-March. So I was only actually physically in the office for six weeks. And then I've been online all the way until April 6th, when I actually went back to this, back to work in the office. So it was rough. It was kind of rough because I felt like, man, I don't know if I know what I'm doing half the time. And then, not being able to meet. So we're just kind of pulling this stuff out of the air and building it. And so now that we're, kind of physically back, it's been nice this last month and a half because we have visited schools, we have done some programming, and then I think we're really ready to hit the ground running. Because a lot of the stuff that I do is hands-on. I go to the schools and talk to kids, and I go to the schools and talk to teachers, and I deliver this stuff and meet with, and bring speakers in and things like that. So I think we're really ready to go, and we kind of built up our plan for the next school year.
Another question is, how many of these programs are required or part of the normal school program for all students versus optional?
Some of them are required, like whenever we have these meetings and these like in the classroom for Indian Ed for All, they're starting to be required because of the Yazzie Martinez. So they have to introduce this stuff, they have to, and we don't want to kind of be, too aggressive about it, but, we're kind of like, you kind of have to do this, and so, but mostly just the after school programs and stuff is what our funding is for and what our grants are for. And so what we're hoping to do is really build this up. And one thing that I told people is that we don't have a budget from the school district, so that's one of the issues from the Yazzie Martinez is like, you say you want to support this, you say that you want to back this education, but there's no line item budget for us in the program. Everything that we do, we live and die by the grant, so it's kind of like you can put all this work in over these years, and if the grants go away, then this whole programming goes away. And that's kind of the problem that the Yazzie Martinez has, is that you can't support these and give lip service and say you support these, but you're not putting anything in the budget, and whereas the school district's going, oh, you guys have money, you're fine. And in reality, everybody's kind of begging for, they're fighting for grants, from the state, and the state has the money. It's like, why not just give these school districts the money instead of always having to ebb and flow of the grant. So yeah.
Somebody else asked, do you get your volunteers through the Santa Fe Public Schools system?
Sometimes we have a volunteer program that we use for like reading and tutoring with kids, that they come to us specifically because the Santa Fe Public Schools kind of has its own body of people that they use. And then we do like an orientation to help Native students, just kind of talking about being culturally sensitive, when you're working with our students in these programs and stuff. So if someone wanted to volunteer, they could just email me and we can get you on the list.
Okay. What are the biggest takeaways that you hope non-Native students will learn about Native culture?
Well, that's one thing that, I've been talking, and when I talk to the teachers and the administrators and principals, I always say there's no way that a kid can go K through 12 through Santa Fe Public Schools and not have any idea or any clue about the culture surrounding this area, and that I really want non-Native students and non-Native teachers, to understand that when you look at the architecture, that's Pueblo architecture. When you look at, you go to a fancy restaurant and there's stacked stone, well, that's from Chaco Canyon, so the look is from there. And then like the food you eat, this New Mexican food is actually indigenous food that's always been here. And then understand that, there's these different tribes and they speak different languages and they have different cultures and origins. And then that people from these tribes are, the Secretary of Interior, or they're newscasters, and they're casino managers, and they're chiefs and doctors and things like that, that it's a kind of a current reality. It's not always, and I'm always kind of telling them, we don't always have to talk historically. It's important, but you don't always have to put us in that context, And so that's one thing that we're really trying to move away from, kind of the stereotypical stuff, you know, and not that I'm bashing all of that, but it's like, we don't always, when we talk about Native arts, we don't always have to talk about pots and rugs. Let's talk about stainless steel lasers, and let's talk about things like that. And so that's kind of what, and I feel like everybody in the district's really been open to it. Like, it's really been good. And we've just been getting calls to talk in the class, talk to teachers. I've got invited to be on the art committee for all the classroom, because that's one area, you know, even though I'm saying they don't always have to talk about art, but the art is lacking in the classroom. And the director that oversees all the art programs in Santa Fe Public Schools is just like, I mean, she's just been in there a little while, but she's kind of appalled that there's not more indigenous arts and Hispanic arts in the classroom. It's just kind of the same old stuff. And so she's really trying to push art teachers. You know, I said, especially here in Santa Fe, you know, I said, I can get lots of people to come into the classroom, because one of the discussions was the ceramics teacher at one of the high schools didn't know who Rose Simpson was. You know, so it's kind of like, wow, really? And so, you know, so we're really trying to push to include, you know, she's Latin, you know, Latina, and then me being Native. Like, we're really trying to push that the art classroom should be aware of what's going on culturally here too. So that's kind of what it is. It's just educating everybody on, you know, what we have here, kind of how rich the culture is, and but not just historically, but in contemporary wise. And so, like I said, it's been really good, and it kind of keeps us busy doing that.
Well, Nocona, thank you so much. This is really good. Oh, wait, there's somebody.
Yeah, come on in.
Oh, Nocona, it's Scott.
Hey, how you doing?
Great, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Good
Yeah,
to see your pretty
listen, I
face.
just have a quick, this was really terrific. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot of stuff tonight that I didn't know. I'm just curious though, you know, because you are a part of MIAC, but MIAC is also part of a bigger venue, which is all of the museums. Is there any link between what you're doing and also the other groups that are under the Museum Foundation, such as the art? I mean, it seems like that would be actually a great connection with what you're doing.
That's what I'd like to get to, because that's what I've been talking to Christina Gonzalez about. You know, she's the art director. And so it's been kind of hard, you know, being everything virtual. But one of the things we want to do is, because I also work on I'm on the committee in Santa Fe Public School for the Art Smart program. And so I sit on 2 of those programs. And so, yeah, that's one thing that we really want to do, is we really want to kind of pull this, and we really feel like we almost want to kind of force it on art teachers that, hey, there's this whole world out there. You know, this is a top art city in the world. The Santa Fe Public School art program should be top notch, you know? And so that's what we really want to do, is really pull those in. So we kind of started with the MIAC, you know, and I even invited some of her non-Native students in on some of our artist presentations, and even some of the teachers. And so we're really going to try to work on getting that. And then actually with the Art Smart program, they were kind of the same thing. They were kind of saying, yeah, we need more diversity in our program. And so I actually got a few artists to be a part of their artists in residence. Like Dale Kerfman is one of the artists in residence
Right.
at the Art Smart program. So yeah, so we're slowly kind of interjecting all these different things into the classroom, because there's just so much to offer, especially in the arts.
Yeah, well, I realize it's early on, but I would encourage you to do that, because it sounds like there's an opportunity to broaden the education of the students here. So thank you for what you're doing.
Yep, thanks.
You're a sweetheart.
I try.
Nocona, thank you so much. I'm just going to really quickly announce that our next Friends of Indian Art event is Thursday, July 29th at 5:30 p.m. It will be a virtual walkthrough of the new exhibit at MIAC called Collecting Jewelry, Curator H.P. Mira's Trip to Navajo Country in 1932. And that walkthrough will be done by Ross Altschuler, who is the curator of that exhibit. You may remember, normally we take off the month of August. Nocona, I hope you have a fabulous Indian market, and we will all be there to support you. Right, everybody? And then in September, our hope is to have a real live in-person event at a visit to the King Galleries with Charles King. So stay tuned, and hope you enjoyed tonight's presentation, and look forward to seeing you in July. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.